Tae-Yang stepped off the transport shuttle and felt the weight of dozens of eyes watching him. The Kravik nursery facility stretched across the red sand like a fortress. Tall walls surrounded the compound, and he could hear the sounds of young voices shouting inside. They did not sound like human children. These voices were deeper, rougher, like the growls of wild animals learning to speak. A massive figure approached him. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, with 4 muscular arms and thick armor plating that covered her shoulders and back. Her eyes were sharp and yellow, like a hunting cat. This was Ralvik, the nursery matron he had spoken with over video calls for the past month. "Human Tae-Yang," she said, her voice rumbled like distant thunder. "You are smaller than you appeared on screen." Tae-Yang smiled and bowed slightly. "Most things are smaller than Kravik. I am honored to be here." Ralvik made a sound that might have been a laugh. "We shall see if you still feel honored after meeting the cubs. Come, I will show you where you will sleep." She led him through the compound. Young Kravik ran past them, chasing each other across training yards. Even the smallest ones had claws and teeth that could tear through metal. Tae-Yang reminded himself that these were children, not monsters. The cultural exchange program existed to help different species understand each other. He was here to study how the Kravik raised their young. His quarters were simple: a sleeping platform, a desk, and a large window that looked out over a courtyard. The walls were thick stone, built to withstand almost anything. Ralvik explained the daily schedule. The cubs woke before dawn for combat training. They studied hunting techniques in the morning. Afternoons were for group exercises and learning their history. "You may observe any session you wish," Ralvik said, "but do not interfere with the training. Our methods have worked for thousands of years." Tae-Yang nodded. He had not come to change anything. He was here to learn and document, nothing more. That night, he lay on the sleeping platform and listened to the sounds of the nursery. Even in sleep, the cubs were restless. He heard their movements, their small growls and mumbles. Predators never truly rested. They remained alert, even in dreams. He thought about home. Earth felt very far away now. His family would be worried, even though he sent messages every week. His mother had cried when he told her about this assignment. She had seen the news reports about Kravik warriors. She thought they would eat him. Tae-Yang smiled in the darkness. The Kravik were not monsters. They were just different. Very different. He woke before dawn, as was his habit. The compound was quiet, though not silent. He could hear the breathing of many creatures, the rustle of movement in distant rooms. He put on his exercise clothes and walked to the courtyard outside his window. The sky was beginning to lighten. The sun on this world rose red and angry, painting the clouds in shades of blood and fire. Tae-Yang found a flat section of ground and began his morning routine. He started with simple stretches. Arms overhead, reaching for the sky. Bending forward to touch his toes, rolling his shoulders and neck. These movements were automatic after years of practice. They helped him wake up, helped his body prepare for the day ahead. Then he moved into the yoga poses he had learned long ago. Warrior pose first. One leg forward, one leg back, arms stretched wide. He focused on his breathing, feeling his muscles engage and hold. The position looked simple but required strength and balance. He moved into tree pose next. Standing on one leg, the other foot pressed against his inner thigh, hands together above his head. The key was finding a single point to focus on. He stared at a stone in the courtyard wall and let everything else fade away. What Tae-Yang did not notice was the small faces appearing in windows around the courtyard. Young Kravik cubs had woken early as predators do. They had heard the soft sound of footsteps and gone to investigate. Now they watched this strange human doing even stranger things. "What is he doing?" whispered Kiva. a small female cub with bright green eyes. "Maybe it is a human hunting dance," suggested Mock, who was slightly larger and always had theories about everything. "He is not moving enough to hunt," said Shen, the smallest of the group. "He is just standing there." More cubs gathered at the windows. There were 12 in this pod, all between 4 and 6 years old in Kravik time. They were supposed to be sleeping, gathering strength for their morning combat drills. Instead, they pressed against the windows and stared at the human. Tai Yang moved into downward dog, his hands and feet on the ground, his body forming a triangle shape. He held this position, breathing slowly and deeply. The cubs watched in fascination. They had never seen anything like this. "His body bends wrong," whispered one cub. "Humans are soft," said another. "They have no armor, no proper claws. This is why they move strangely." But Kiva said nothing. She watched the way the human's muscles trembled slightly as he held each position. She saw the sweat beginning to form on his skin despite the cool morning air. She noticed how his breathing stayed calm and steady, never rushed or panicked. Tai Yang moved into warrior pose again, but this time facing the rising sun. The red light silhouetted his body, making him look larger than he was. He held the position for 3 minutes, his legs shaking with effort but never wavering. His arms remained stretched wide, his gaze fixed on the horizon. Kiva felt something strange in her chest. Respect, perhaps, or curiosity. This human looked weak and soft, yes, but there was something about the way he moved, something purposeful, something that reminded her of the way adult Kravik warriors prepared for the hunt. "The human is hunting," she whispered to herself. But hunting what? The sun rose higher. Tai Yang completed his routine and returned to his quarters, never knowing he had an audience. The cubs scattered quickly, returning to their sleeping areas just as the morning alarm sounded through the compound. Ralvik came to wake them for combat training. She found them already awake, standing in their formation. This was unusual. Cubs normally had to be roused from sleep, grumbling and slow. "You are alert this morning," she observed. The cubs said nothing. They exchanged glances but kept quiet. Whatever they had seen, they were not ready to share it yet. Throughout the morning drills, the cubs seemed distracted. They kept looking toward the courtyard where the human had performed his strange movements. Ralvik noticed but said nothing. She had learned long ago that cubs kept their own secrets. They would speak when ready. That afternoon, Tai Yang joined them for the history lesson. He sat quietly in the corner, taking notes on his datapad. The cubs stared at him openly now. He smiled and waved. Some of them waved back with one of their 4 arms. When the lesson ended, little Kiva approached him. She moved carefully, the way young predators do when uncertain. "Human Tai Yang," she said. "What were you doing in the courtyard this morning?" Tai Yang looked surprised. "You saw that?" "I was doing my morning exercises. They help me stay strong and flexible." "You were hunting," Kiva said with certainty. "Hunting?" Tai Yang laughed gently. "No, I was just stretching. But you stood so still, like a warrior waiting to strike." Tai Yang considered this. "I suppose it is a bit like hunting, but I am hunting balance, control, inner strength." The other cubs had gathered now, listening carefully. "Can humans not hunt real prey?" asked Mock. "We can," Tai Yang said. "But we hunt differently than Kravik. We hunt with patience and planning. These exercises help train our minds and bodies for that." The cubs looked at each other with new understanding. The human was not weak. He was just a different kind of strong. The next morning, Tai Yang walked to the courtyard expecting to be alone. Instead, he found 12 young Kravik cubs already there, attempting to copy the poses they had watched him do the day before. The sight made him stop in surprise. Little Kiva stood on one leg, wobbling dangerously. She had all 4 arms stretched in different directions, trying to find balance. Mach was bent over with his hands on the ground, rear end in the air, but his 4 arms made the position look completely different from downward dog. Shen had fallen over twice and was trying again with determination on her small face. "What are you all doing?" Tae Yang asked. "Fighter pose," Kiva said, still wobbling. "We are learning the human hunting stance." Tae Yang tried not to laugh. Their bodies were built so differently from his. 4 arms instead of 2, thicker bones, a lower center of gravity, but they were trying so hard, their young faces serious with concentration. "You saw me yesterday?" he asked. "We all saw," Mach said from his awkward bent position. "We want to learn. You said these make you strong." Before Tai Yang could respond, a loud voice boomed across the courtyard. "What is this?" Ralvik stormed toward them. Her 4 arms were crossed, and her face showed anger. Behind her came Doktar, the combat instructor. He was even larger than Ralvik, with scars across his armor plating from countless battles. "Cubs," Ralvik growled. "You should be in formation for morning combat drills, not playing with the human." "We are not playing, matron," Kiva said bravely. "We are training." "This is not training," Doktar said. His voice was harsh. "This is soft prey behavior. Kravik warriors do not bend and twist like frightened creatures. We strike, we pounce, we dominate." Tae Yang stepped forward carefully. "With respect, Instructor Doktar, these exercises are not prey behavior. On Earth, our greatest warriors use these poses to build strength, flexibility, and mental focus." Doktar laughed. It was not a kind sound. "Humans are weak. You have no claws, no armor, no killing instinct. Whatever helps you survive is not suitable for true predators." "Perhaps," Tae Yang said calmly. "But would you be willing to try? Just once?" The cubs went very quiet. No one challenged Doktar. He was the fiercest warrior in the nursery, the one who trained generations of Kravik hunters. Doktar's eyes narrowed. "You wish me to embarrass you? Very well. Show me this great human warrior pose." Tae Yang moved to an open space. "This one is called plank position. It builds core strength and endurance." He lowered himself to the ground, then pushed up so his body formed a straight line from head to feet. Only his hands and toes touched the ground. The goal is to hold it as long as possible. He began to breathe steadily, focusing on keeping his body perfectly straight. His muscles began to shake after 1 minute, but he held the position. 2 minutes. 3 minutes. His arms trembled, sweat rolled down his face, but still he held. "Humans are endurance hunters," he said through controlled breaths. "We may not be fast or strong like Kravik, but we can keep going when others must stop. We can chase prey for hours, days if needed. This pose trains that ability." At 5 minutes, Tae Yang slowly lowered himself to the ground. His arms were shaking, but he had made his point. Doktar snorted. 5 minutes of shaking like a leaf. This proves strength? "Would you like to try?" Tae Yang asked again. The cubs watched with wide eyes. Ralvik said nothing, but her expression showed interest now instead of anger. Doktar moved into position. With 4 arms, he had more support points. "This should be easy," his posture suggested. He pushed his massive body up and held the plank position. At 1 minute, his arms began to shake slightly. At 90 seconds, his breathing grew heavier. At 2 minutes, his whole body trembled. At 2 minutes and 15 seconds, he collapsed to the ground. The cubs gasped. Doktar, the greatest warrior they knew, had failed where the soft human had succeeded. Doktar stood up quickly, his face showing embarrassment and anger. "This proves nothing. It is a useless skill." "Is it?" asked another voice. Everyone turned. A human woman had entered the courtyard. She was small like Tai Yang, with short black hair and kind eyes. This was Hanul, another researcher who had arrived late last night. "I am Hanul," she said, bowing to Ralvik. "I study how different species use their bodies. May I add something to this discussion?" Ralvik nodded slowly. "The plank position trains something specific," Hanul explained. "It teaches the body to stay rigid and stable while under stress. For humans, this is essential. We have weak bodies, so we must use every muscle efficiently. But this skill works for any species. A warrior who can hold their core steady can strike more accurately. They can maintain position during long hunts. They can carry heavy loads without injury." She looked at the cubs. "Your normal combat training is excellent for building speed and aggression. But these exercises would add something new: control, precision, the ability to stay calm and focused even when your body wants to give up." Doktar crossed all four arms. "Our training has produced warriors for thousands of years." "Yes," Hanul agreed, "and it is very good training. We are not suggesting replacing it, only adding to it, combining the best of both species' knowledge." Ralvik looked at the cubs. They stared back at her with hopeful eyes. She then looked at Tae-Yang and Hanul. Finally, she looked at Doktar. "1-week trial," she said. "Each morning, the human Tae-Yang may lead the cubs in his exercises for 30 minutes. Then they will do their regular combat training with Doktar. At the end of the week, we will evaluate if there is any benefit." The cubs cheered. Doktar looked angry but said nothing. He could not argue with Ralvik's decision. "However," Ralvik continued, staring at Tae-Yang, "if I see any sign that this makes the cubs weaker or less focused, it stops immediately. Understood?" "Understood," Tae-Yang said. That afternoon, another human arrived. Her name was Minji, and she was a combat specialist. She had studied human and alien fighting techniques for years. The Kravik had requested her specifically to help evaluate their training methods. When she heard about the morning arrangement, she laughed with delight. "They want to learn yoga? This is wonderful. I can help design poses that work for their four-armed bodies." That evening, the three humans sat together and planned the next morning's session. They would start simple: basic stretches to warm up the muscles, then a few poses to build balance and core strength. Nothing too difficult for the first day. "The key," Minji explained, "is to make them feel successful. Cubs need encouragement. If we push too hard too fast, they will give up. Or Doktar will use it as proof that human methods are useless," Hanul added. Tae-Yang nodded. He understood the challenge. This was about more than just exercise. It was about showing that different species could learn from each other. That being different did not mean being enemies. The next morning came quickly. Tae-Yang arrived at the courtyard to find all 12 cubs already waiting. They stood in neat rows, their faces serious and determined. "Good morning, cubs," he said. "Good morning, Teacher Tae-Yang," they responded together. Ralvik and Doktar watched from the side. Ralvik's face showed curiosity. Doktar's showed doubt. "We will start with simple stretches," Tae-Yang began. "Reach all your arms up high as you can. Good. Now reach for the sky like you are trying to grab a star." The cubs stretched up, their forearms creating interesting patterns. "Now bend down and touch the ground. Let your head hang loose. Feel the stretch in your back and legs." He led them through 15 minutes of stretches. The cubs giggled sometimes, especially when someone wobbled or fell, but they kept trying. Then came the first real pose. "This is warrior pose. It teaches balance and leg strength. Watch me first." He demonstrated, then helped each cub find their version of the position. With 4 arms, they could use 2 for balance and 2 stretched out. This actually gave them an advantage. "Hold this position," Tae-Yang said. "Breathe slowly. Count to 30 in your head." The cubs held the pose. Some wobbled, some fell, but they all tried again without being asked. Kiva held her position perfectly, her small face showing intense concentration. When 30 seconds ended, she smiled with pride. "Good work, everyone," Tae-Yang said. "Now we try the other leg." By the end of 30 minutes, the cubs were tired but happy. They had learned 5 different poses. They had stretched muscles they did not know they had. By the 3rd day, something unexpected happened. Adult Kravik warriors began appearing around the courtyard during the morning sessions. They did not join in, but they watched. They stood in the shadows of doorways or leaned against walls, their yellow eyes tracking every movement. Tae-Yang noticed but said nothing. He continued leading the cubs through their routine. Stretch, breathe, hold, release. The cubs were improving quickly. Their young bodies adapted to the new movements with surprising speed. Kiva could now hold tree pose for over a minute without wobbling. Mok had perfected his version of downward dog. Shen, the smallest, had discovered she was the most flexible of the group. She could bend in ways that made even Tae-Yang impressed. On the 4th morning, Doktar himself showed up for the full session. He stood with his forearms crossed, watching silently. When the cubs finished and ran off to their regular combat training, he approached Tae-Yang. "The cubs are more focused during combat drills," he admitted grudgingly. "They follow instructions better. They hold formations longer without complaining." "The breathing exercises help with that," Tae-Yang explained. "When you control your breath, you control your mind. When you control your mind, you can focus on the task in front of you." Doktar grunted. It was not agreement, but it was not disagreement either. That afternoon, Ralvik called Tae-Yang to her office. He expected trouble, but instead found her looking thoughtful. "The adult warriors are talking," she said. "They are interested in your training methods. Some wish to try them." Tae-Yang felt a surge of excitement but kept his face calm. "I would be happy to teach anyone who wants to learn." "There is a problem," Ralvik continued. "Not everyone approves. There is a combat instructor at the nursery across the valley. His name is Vec Non. He heard about what is happening here and is angry. He says we are making our cubs soft. He says we are abandoning Kravik traditions for weak human habits." "I see," Tae-Yang said carefully. "What will happen?" "Vec Non has challenged us to a competition, his cubs against ours. Traditional obstacle courses and hunting simulations. If our cubs lose, you must stop the morning training. If our cubs win, he will stop spreading negative talk about these methods." Tae-Yang felt his stomach tighten. This was exactly what he had feared. "When is this competition?" "1 week from today." After leaving Ralvik's office, Tae-Yang found Hanul and Minji. He explained the situation. "This is bad," Minji said, pacing back and forth. "The cubs have only been training for 4 days. That is not enough time to see real benefits." "But they are showing improvements," Hanul argued. "Doktar himself said they are more focused." "Focus is not enough," Minji countered. "This competition will test physical skills, speed, strength, aggression, things that take weeks or months to develop." Tae-Yang sat down heavily. "Maybe we should stop now. I do not want the cubs to fail because of me." "No," said a small voice. They turned to find Kiva standing in the doorway. Behind her were Mok, Shen, and the other cubs. "We do not want to stop," Kiva said firmly. "The morning training makes us feel strong. We want to compete. We want to show Vec Non that we are not soft." "But what if you lose?" Tae-Yang asked gently. "Then we lose," Mok said, shrugging his 4 shoulders. "But we will lose having tried something new. That is better than never trying at all." The other cubs nodded in agreement. Their young faces showed determination that reminded Tae-Yang why he had come to this world in the first place. To learn about these amazing creatures, to build bridges between species. "All right," he said. "Then we train, not just stretches and poses. Minji, can you design exercises that combine human techniques with Kravik combat skills?" Minji smiled. I thought you would never ask. The next week was intense. Every morning, the cubs did their stretches and poses. Then Minji led them through special exercises. She taught them how to use controlled breathing during sprints, how to use core strength to change direction quickly, how to stay calm and focused even when tired. The adult warriors watched with increasing interest. Some began joining the morning sessions, standing at the back and copying the movements. Doktar himself started doing plank exercises in his private quarters, though he would never admit it. Meanwhile, Hanul worked with individual cubs to understand their bodies better. She showed them how to position their forearms for maximum efficiency, how to use their low center of gravity as an advantage rather than a limitation. Taeyang introduced meditation sessions in the evenings. The cubs sat quietly and practiced breathing techniques. At first, they giggled and poked each other, but gradually, they learned to sit still, to quiet their minds, to find calm in the silence. In hunting, Taeyang explained one evening, there are two kinds of strength. There is the strength to chase and catch, but there is also the strength to wait, to watch, to stay hidden and patient until exactly the right moment. Human hunters could track prey for days because we knew how to conserve our energy, how to stay calm and focused even when tired or hungry. Little Shen raised a hand. Is that why you do the fighter poses? To practice waiting? Exactly, Taeyang said, smiling. Every pose teaches patience. You cannot rush through them. You must hold the position even when your body wants to move. That is mental strength, not just physical strength. News of the upcoming competition spread throughout the region. Other Kravik came to watch the training sessions. Some laughed at the sight of cubs doing human exercises. Others looked thoughtful. Vecnon himself visited 2 days before the competition. He was larger than Doktar, with darker armor plating and cold eyes. He watched the cubs go through their morning routine with obvious disgust. This is what you are teaching our young, he said loudly. To stand still and breathe, to bend like weak plants in the wind? We are teaching them control, Ralvik replied calmly. Something you might consider learning yourself. Vecnon snarled. My cubs will destroy yours in the competition. Then everyone will see that traditional Kravik training is superior to this human nonsense. After he left, the cubs looked worried. Vecnon's words had shaken their confidence. Minji gathered them together. Listen to me carefully. Vecnon's cubs are trained in the old way. They will be aggressive and fast. They will try to intimidate you. Do not let them. But what if they are better than us? Shen asked in a small voice. Better is not about being faster or stronger, Minji said. Better is about being smarter, more controlled, more patient. You have tools now that Vecnon's cubs do not have. You can control your breathing when stressed. You can stay focused when others panic. You can wait for the right moment instead of rushing in. Taeyang added, Remember what I told you about human hunters. We were not the fastest or strongest predators on Earth, but we were the most patient. We could outlast anything. That is why humans spread across the entire planet while other predators stayed in small territories. The night before the competition, Taeyang could not sleep. He walked to the courtyard and found Kiva there alone, practicing her poses in the moonlight. You should be resting, he said gently. I am too nervous to sleep, she admitted. What if we fail? What if Vecnon is right and the morning training made us weak? Taeyang sat down beside her. Let me tell you a secret. When I first came here, I was terrified. I thought the Kravik would see me as weak and useless. I am small. I have no claws or armor. I cannot run as fast or hit as hard as any of you. But you are not weak, Kiva said. You are different strong. Exactly, Taeyang smiled. And that is what you have learned over these past days. There are many kinds of strength. Speed and aggression are important, but so are patience and control. Tomorrow, You will show everyone that learning from other species does not make you less Kravik. It makes you more complete. Kiva was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Whatever happens tomorrow, I am glad we learned from you. The morning training makes me feel powerful in a new way, like I have more control over my body and mind." "That is the greatest lesson," Tae Yang said. "Win or lose tomorrow, you have already gained something valuable." The morning of the competition arrived with a red dawn. Cubs from both nurseries gathered at the competition grounds. Vecnon's cubs looked fierce and confident. They were slightly larger and their movements showed aggressive readiness. Tai Yang's cubs stood quietly, breathing slowly, their faces calm. They had started the morning with their usual routine, despite Vecnon's mocking laughter when he saw them doing stretches. The competition grounds were filled with adult Kravik from both nurseries and nearby settlements. Word had spread quickly about the challenge. Some came to support traditional training methods. Others were curious about the human techniques. All wanted to see which cubs would prove superior. Ralvik and Vecnon stood at the center, with a neutral elder named Tokmar serving as judge. Tokmar was ancient, his armor plating scarred from countless battles, his eyes still sharp despite his many years. "The competition will have 3 parts," Tokmar announced in a voice that carried across the grounds. "First, an obstacle course testing speed and agility. Second, a strength and combat simulation. Third, a hunting exercise testing patience and tracking skills. The cubs with the best overall performance will be declared winners." The first challenge was the obstacle course. It consisted of walls to climb, tunnels to crawl through, platforms to jump between, and a final sprint to the finish line. Vecnon's cubs went first. They attacked the course with impressive speed and aggression. Their leader, a large male named Grak, finished in just under 2 minutes. The crowd cheered. The other cubs from his nursery performed similarly, all completing the course in good time. Then came Tae Yang's cubs. They stood at the starting line, and Minji whispered to them, "Remember your breathing. Stay calm. Use your training." Kiva went first. She started at a controlled pace, not rushing. When she reached the first wall, she used all 4 arms efficiently to pull herself up. At the tunnel section, she stayed low and moved smoothly instead of scrambling. When she reached the jumping platforms, she paused briefly before each jump, finding her balance, then launching with precision. Her time was slightly slower than Grak's. The crowd murmured. Vecnon smiled smugly. But then Mok ran the course. His time was better than Kiva's. Then Shen, whose flexibility helped her move through the tunnels faster than any of Vecnon's cubs. Then the others, each one performing with controlled efficiency. When all cubs had finished, Tokamar announced, "The average time for Vecnon's cubs is 1 minute and 58 seconds. The average time for Ralvik's cubs is 1 minute and 56 seconds. First challenge goes to Ralvik's nursery." The crowd erupted in surprised chatter. Vecnon's face darkened with anger. "They were lucky," he growled. "The next challenge will show true strength." The second challenge was a combat simulation. The cubs faced mechanical targets that moved unpredictably. They earned points for accurate strikes and lost points for wasted movements or missed targets. This time, Vecnon's cubs seemed certain to win. They attacked the targets with fierce aggression, their claws flashing, their movements quick and powerful. Grak scored particularly well, hitting target after target with brutal efficiency. When Taeyang's cubs took their turn, they seemed slower at first, but their strikes were more accurate. They wasted less energy on wild swings. Kiva stood in warrior pose briefly before each strike, centering herself, then attacking with precision. Mok used the breathing techniques to stay calm even when targets came from multiple directions. Instead of panicking and swinging at everything, he focused on one target at a time, eliminating them systematically. When the scores were tallied, it was close. Vecnon's cubs had more total strikes, but Ralvik's cubs had better accuracy and efficiency. Tokmar studied the numbers carefully. "The rules state that quality matters more than quantity," he announced finally. "A true hunter does not waste energy on attacks that miss. Second challenge goes to Ralvik's nursery." Now the crowd was fully engaged. This was not supposed to happen. Traditional training had always been considered superior, yet these cubs who had learned human techniques were winning. Vecnon looked furious. Doktar, standing beside Ralvik, allowed himself a small smile. "The final challenge will decide everything," Tokmar said. "This is the hunting exercise. Each team will track simulated prey through the forest preserve. The prey units have heat signatures and will try to evade capture. The team that captures the most prey in 1 hour wins." This challenge was different from the others. It could not be won with speed or aggression alone. It required patience, tracking skills, and the ability to work as a coordinated team. The forest preserve was a large area with dense vegetation, rocks, streams, and hiding places. The simulated prey were small mechanical units programmed to behave like real animals. They would flee from noise and sudden movements, but could be approached by patient, quiet hunters. Vecnon's cubs entered the forest with typical Kravik confidence. They spread out and began searching aggressively, moving quickly through the underbrush. Within the first 10 minutes, they had captured 3 prey units. The crowd watching on monitors cheered. But then their captures slowed. The prey units detected the cubs' aggressive approach and fled before they could get close. After 30 minutes, Vecnon's team had captured only 5 prey units total. Then it was Ralvik's cubs' turn. They entered the forest differently. They moved slowly and quietly, using hand signals to communicate instead of voices. This was something Minji had taught them, but it also incorporated the patience they had learned from morning meditation sessions. Kiva spotted a prey unit near a stream. Instead of rushing toward it, she signaled the others. They spread out in a wide circle, moving slowly. Kiva herself found a comfortable position and simply waited, staying perfectly still. She focused on her breathing, staying calm and patient. The prey unit, detecting no immediate threat, began to move. It walked directly toward Kiva's position. When it was close enough, she moved with sudden precision and captured it. "That is the first principle of human hunting," Taeyang whispered to Hanol as they watched. "Patience. Wait for the prey to come to you." Mok used a different technique. He tracked a prey unit's heat signature, following it quietly through the underbrush. When it went to ground in a hiding spot, he did not rush in. Instead, he waited at a distance, controlling his breathing, staying completely still. After several minutes, the prey unit thought the danger had passed and emerged. Mok captured it immediately. Shen discovered she was excellent at moving silently through dense vegetation. Her small size and flexibility allowed her to slip through spaces larger cubs could not. She captured 2 prey units by approaching from unexpected angles. The hour passed. When Tokmar called time, Ralvik's cubs had captured 12 prey units compared to Vecnon's 5. The crowd was silent with shock. Then, slowly, applause began. It started with a few adults who appreciated skill when they saw it, then spread through the gathering. Tokmar raised all 4 arms for silence. "The winner is clear. Ralvik's nursery has won the competition. Their cubs showed not only traditional Kravik strength and speed, but also patience, control, and precision. These are qualities of true hunters." Vecnon looked like he wanted to argue, but he could not dispute the results. His own cubs looked disappointed but not surprised. They had felt the difference during the hunting exercise. Ralvik approached Vecnon calmly. "Your cubs fought well. This was not about defeating you. It was about showing that learning from other species makes us stronger, not weaker." Vecnon said nothing for a long moment. Then grudgingly he said, "Your cubs performed adequately. Perhaps there is something to these human methods after all. It was not a warm endorsement, but it was acceptance. He would stop spreading negative talk about the training. That evening, the celebration at Ralvik's nursery was loud and joyful. The cubs received praise from adults who had watched the competition. Even Dr. admitted that the combination of traditional and human training had produced impressive results. "The cubs are not weaker," he said to Tai Yang. "They are different. More complete, as you said. Perhaps this old warrior can learn new things after all." Tai Yang bowed respectfully. "I would be honored to train with you, Instructor Dr." Kiva approached with Mok and Shen. Their faces glowed with pride and happiness. "Teacher Tai Yang," Kiva said formally, "we want to thank you, not for helping us win, but for teaching us that there are many ways to be strong." "You taught yourselves," Tai Yang replied. "I just showed you some techniques. You were the ones who worked hard and stayed dedicated." "Will you continue teaching us?" Shen asked. "Even though the competition is over?" "If Matron Ralvik allows it, I will teach you for as long as I am here." Ralvik, overhearing this, nodded. "The morning training will continue, and I think we should expand it. Other nurseries are already asking about these techniques. Word is spread quickly." Over the next few days, representatives from 3 other nurseries visited to observe the morning sessions. They watched the cubs go through their stretches, poses, and breathing exercises. They saw the focus and control in young faces that were usually wild with energy. Adult warriors also began attending regularly. At first, they stood at the back and watched. Then some tried the poses themselves. Within a week, there were as many adults as cubs in the morning courtyard. 3 weeks after the competition, life at the nursery had settled into a comfortable rhythm. The morning training sessions were now a regular part of the schedule. Cubs and adult warriors practiced together, and the courtyard that had once been empty at dawn was now filled with bodies stretching and holding poses in the red sunrise. Tai Yang had grown close to the cubs, especially Kiva, Mok, and Shen. They asked him endless questions about Earth, about humans, about other species he had encountered. He answered as best he could, always amazed by their curiosity and intelligence. On this particular day, most of the adult warriors were away at a regional ceremony honoring their ancestors. It was a major event that happened once every year, and nearly all qualified warriors were required to attend. The nursery was left with minimal staff: Ralvik, 2 junior instructors, and the 3 humans. The cubs were in the middle of their afternoon lesson when the alarm sounded. It was a harsh, wailing sound that Tai Yang had never heard before. The cubs immediately went silent, their ears flattening against their heads in fear. Ralvik burst into the room, moving faster than Tai Yang had ever seen her move. "Breach in the south wall. A scar lion got through. All cubs to the safe chamber immediately." The cubs began moving, but Tai Yang could see panic in their eyes. He had heard of scar lions. They were the apex predators of this world, even more dangerous than adult Kravik. One scar lion could kill dozens before being brought down. "Quickly!" Ralvik shouted. "But do not run! Running triggers hunting instinct. Move fast but controlled." The cubs tried, but fear made them clumsy. Some stumbled, others bumped into each other. The younger cubs, those who had not been at the competition, began crying with fear. Then Kiva's voice rang out. "Fighter pose! Everyone, fighter pose right now!" The command was so unexpected that cubs stopped moving. Kiva stood in warrior pose, her 4 arms stretched wide, her breathing slow and controlled. "Fighter pose," she repeated firmly. "Find your center. Breathe." One by one, the other cubs from her training group joined her: Mok, Shen, and the others. They stood in various poses, breathing slowly and deeply, their faces calm despite the alarm still wailing. The younger cubs watched, confused but fascinated. Then they began copying the poses, the way young children everywhere learn by imitation. Tae-yang felt his heart swell with pride and terror at the same time. The cubs were using their training to control their fear, but there was still a scar lion loose in the compound. "Good," Ralvik said, her voice calmer now. "Everyone stay in formation. We move together to the safe chamber, slow and controlled. The scar lion is on the south side. We go north." They began moving as a group. The cubs kept their breathing steady, their movements controlled. Tae-yang, Hanyul, and Minji surrounded the younger cubs, providing protection and comfort. They were halfway to the safe chamber when the scar lion appeared. It was massive, easily 12 feet long with 6 legs and a mouthful of teeth like daggers. Its scales were dark green and brown, perfect camouflage for the forest. It had blood on its claws from the guards it had already encountered. The creature spotted the group and let out a roar that shook the walls. Several young cubs screamed. The scar lion's head snapped toward the sound, its hunting instinct triggered. "Do not run," Ralvik commanded. "Do not scream. Stay calm." But the younger cubs were too frightened. They broke formation and ran toward the safe chamber. The scar lion immediately charged after them. Kiva moved without thinking. She jumped in front of the running cubs and dropped into warrior pose, making herself as big and visible as possible. The scar lion's attention locked onto her instead. "Kiva, no!" Tae-yang shouted. But Kiva did not move. She held warrior pose, breathing slowly, her eyes locked on the approaching predator. Behind her, Mok and Shen were herding the younger cubs toward safety, speaking calmly to keep them from panicking further. The scar lion slowed, confused. Its prey was not running. The small creature was standing still, making itself obvious. This was not normal prey behavior. Tae-yang realized what Kiva was doing. She was using everything she had learned about stillness and patience. She was not acting like frightened prey. She was acting like a warrior who had chosen her ground and would not be moved. The scar lion circled slowly, trying to understand. Kiva remained absolutely still, only her chest moving with controlled breaths. She had found that place of calm focus that they practiced every morning. Fear was there, but it did not control her. Ralvik moved slowly, positioning herself between the scar lion and the cubs. The 2 junior instructors did the same, but they were outnumbered and outmatched. One scar lion could kill them all. Then Minji spoke quietly to Tae-yang. "We need to distract it. Give the others time to evacuate the cubs." "How?" Tae-yang whispered back. "The same way Kiva is doing. Be still. Be calm. Confuse its hunting instinct. If we all stand still in different locations, it will not know which target to attack first. That hesitation might save lives." Hanyul nodded. "She is right. Human hunting techniques work both ways. We know how to make predators uncertain." Before Tae-yang could argue, both women moved to different positions around the courtyard. They stood still, dropping into various yoga poses, making themselves visible but not acting like prey. Tae-yang took a deep breath. This was insane, but it might work. He moved to another position and dropped into tree pose, balancing on one leg, perfectly still. The scar lion's head swiveled between the 4 still figures. Its hunting instinct was completely confused. Prey ran. Prey panicked. Prey smelled like fear, but these creatures were calm. They were choosing to be visible. Was this a trap? During this precious time, Ralvik and the instructors got all the cubs to the safe chamber, all except Kiva, who still had not moved from her warrior pose. "Kiva," Ralvik called softly. "Come here slowly, very slowly." Kiva began moving, one careful step at a time. She kept her breathing controlled, her movements smooth and deliberate. The scar lion watched, but did not attack. She was 5 steps from safety when a piece of debris fell from the damaged wall. The sound was sudden and loud. The scar lion reacted instantly, lunging toward the noise. Kiva was directly in its path. There was no time to run, no time to dodge. So she did the only thing she could. She dropped flat to the ground and went completely still, using the technique Tai Yang had taught them for playing dead. The Scar Lion's claws scraped the stone where she had been standing. It looked down at the motionless cub, confused again. The creature leaned close, sniffing. Kiva controlled her breathing to barely perceptible levels, another technique from meditation practice. The Scar Lion nudged her with its snout. She remained absolutely still. It was like pushing a rock. No fear scent, no movement, not interesting. The creature turned away, looking for more active prey. That was when Ralvik struck. She had been waiting for the perfect moment, using the patience she had learned from watching the morning sessions. Her attack was precise and powerful, hitting the Scar Lion's vulnerable neck joint. The creature roared and spun toward her. The two junior instructors attacked from the sides. The humans remained still, not wanting to confuse the warrior's attack pattern. The fight was brief but violent. The Scar Lion was strong and fast, but Ralvik was a master warrior. She used the creature's own momentum against it, the way Minji had taught in combat practice. When it lunged, she stepped aside at the last moment, allowing it to crash into the wall. When it tried to bite, she ducked under and struck at vulnerable spots. Finally, one of the junior instructors managed to hit the neural cluster at the base of the creature's skull. The Scar Lion collapsed, not dead but unconscious. For a long moment, everyone stood frozen. Then Ralvik rushed to Kiva, who was still lying flat on the ground. "Kiva! Are you hurt?" Kiva slowly rose, her legs shaking. "I am okay, matron. Just scared." Ralvik pulled her into a fierce hug, something Tai Yang had never seen her do before. "That was the bravest thing I have ever seen, and the stupidest. Never do that again." "Yes, matron," Kiva said into her shoulder. The other cubs came rushing out of the safe chamber, surrounding Kiva and checking that she was unharmed. Mok and Shen hugged her from both sides. "You saved us," Shen said. "The little ones would have been caught if you had not stopped the Scar Lion." Tai Yang approached, his own legs still shaking from fear and adrenaline. "Kiva, that was incredibly brave, but also incredibly dangerous." "I know," Kiva said, "but you taught us that warrior pose is about finding your ground and holding it. That is what I did." "You used everything we taught you," Minji said, arriving with Hanul. "The stillness, the breathing control, the focus. You probably saved many lives today." Ralvik looked at the three humans with new respect. "You also stood against a Scar Lion. You could have fled to safety, but you chose to help distract it. That is warrior behavior." "We are not warriors," Tai Yang said. "We are teachers. But you taught us that sometimes teaching requires courage." Later that evening, after the adult warriors returned and secured the compound, after the Scar Lion was safely contained, after the breach was repaired, everyone gathered in the Great Hall. The story of what happened had spread quickly, how the cubs used their training to stay calm, how Kiva stood against a Scar Lion, how the humans used stillness and patience to confuse a predator. Doctor stood before everyone and spoke in his deep, rumbling voice. "Today we learned an important lesson. The human training is not just about stretching or breathing. It is about finding strength in calmness, control in chaos. That is warrior wisdom of the highest order.